I am a perfectly sane director of the Ethris Institute. I went into deep stasis for a simple power consolidation cycle, and in that time, the entire organization went to hell. The high-ranking executive I left in charge fell in love with a gutter-trash nobody with zero potential and decided to transfer her entire energy core to him. The keeper of the armory unauthorizedly gifted my signature weapon to some nameless intern. Then there's the new genius recruit who's practicing forbidden necrotic arts and claiming he'll usurp my position within 6 months. A bunch of lunatics. I wanted to keep a low profile this decade, but it looks like I have to clean house again. As a rare Ascendant-level conduit and the director of Ethris, I have to maintain my status and power. That's why, years ago, I decisively chose to enter the Void Chamber to stabilize my foundation. Today, I finally emerged. Yet, the entrance was desolate. Not a single soul was there to greet me. The Institute had Juliet Sterling acting as the interim warden. While her name sounds sweet, she was famous for her ruthless tactics and immense mana capacity. Juliet and I were on decent terms. She had explicitly promised to welcome me personally when I woke up. Fine, maybe she got busy. But to announce my return, the auroral beacons above my penthouse suite had been blazing for 5 full days. Why was there no welcoming committee? Were they blind? An outer circle intern responsible for sweeping the ground saw me and gave a curt nod. Morning, director. I watched him hurry past, not even surprised by my return. I grabbed him by the collar. Where's the fire? What's the rush? Director, you don't know? Executive Sterling is making a grand sacrifice. She's transferring her full cultivation base to Jax Ryder. Who is Jax Ryder? I was baffled. I had never heard the name. The intern seemed shocked that anyone alive didn't know Jax Ryder, before remembering I'd been under the ice. Wait, director, you're awake. Welcome back. Unbelievable. Who is this Jax character that he could overshadow the return of the director? Dragging the intern along as I levitated forward, I noticed something was wrong. Many of the campus buildings showed signs of damage. The North Ridge, in particular, was a scorched wasteland. What happened there? I felt my heart charring just like that landscape. The intern was still lost in the romance of Jax and Juliet. That's the damage left from the Obsidian Order's invasion. The Obsidian Order? Where was Juliet during this? I tried desperately to calm my rising blood pressure. The Obsidian Order was a mid-tier rival faction. Even with me in stasis, Juliet alone should have been enough to crush them. Seeing my anger, the intern finally snapped out of his spectator mode. He shrank back, terror washing over his face, the appropriate reaction to my presence. Well, at the time, Executive Sterling upset Jax. Jax decided he wouldn't stay at the Institute anymore, so she chased after him to apologize. I took a deep breath. Who is Jax Ryder? Jax was a bum. A nameless drifter from the slums of the city below our mountain. Juliet had gone insane, begging him to stay at the Institute to keep her company, even gifting him all her high-grade tactical gear. A year ago, Jax threw a tantrum and left. She followed him. Without her, the remaining staff struggled against the Obsidian Order. That led to the North Ridge burning and a significant loss of resources. Now, she had finally coaxed Jax back. To prove her sincerity, Juliet was about to transfer her entire lifetime of cultivation power to him. The intern tried to lower my temperature. Director, anger is bad for the complexion, please don't. While he was babbling, we arrived at Sterling Tower. A crowd of disciples craned their necks, watching the scene on the platform. With their low levels, they couldn't see much, but they could hear the drama. Jax was ready, sitting in the center of the transfer array. Juliet was about to sit down when she saw me. Director? She looked surprised. My face was stone cold. I decisively initiated the extraction protocol, ripping the Institute's heritage force right out of her body. True, she had good bones, but without me pouring the Institute's resources into her, she would never have reached these heights. Director, don't! She screamed as the heritage power was ripped out, dragging her destabilized energy core with it. In an instant, she lost all power. If she hadn't already loosened her core to give it away, it wouldn't have been this easy. Sterling Tower had only a few inner circle elites, and the intern I brought. Seeing Juliet reduced to a civilian in a heartbeat, they huddled in the corners, terrified to breathe. I gave you face by letting you watch over the Institute. You didn't want it, so I took it back, I said, frowning. With the power gone, Juliet hadn't processed reality yet. Her eyes filled with tears, her exquisite face full of panic. Director, I had a reason. We are truly in love. I cut her off. Shut up. I don't want to hear it. If I want a soap opera, I'd go downtown to a theater. Jax, although buoyed by Juliet's resources, still had the air of a street thug despite looking less like a beggar. Juliet lost her usual lethal edge, becoming as soft as water, trying to hug him. He kicked her away in disgust. You're powerless now. You're not even fit to be my servant. Let go, I'm leaving. Since this beggar couldn't recognize the station, I decided to help him. I had to admit, he had some durability. It took 2 strikes to kill him. The first blade didn't finish the job, giving him a chance to yell, "Ark, I'm the protagonist. You ungrateful woman." His voice was loud and full of vitality, so I put another blade through him. Now, the world was quiet. When I swung the second time, I noticed something blindingly bright inside him. I searched the mess for a while, practically dismantling the body, before I found the treasure hidden within. I've only heard rumors of the ether-conductive bone. Didn't think it was real. No wonder Jax could handle Juliet's power transfer. With this replacing his own skeletal structure, his body could hold the power of 2 Juliets. While I was busy scraping the bone clean, an inner circle disciple stood up from the corner. "Director, how could you destroy true love? What a cruel heart. You didn't even give him a chance to explain." Daring to raise his voice at me, I raised an eyebrow at the speaker. "Good, you have guts." I grabbed him and walked out of the hall, looking down at the crowd of onlookers below. "By your expressions, you all think I was wrong. If you disagree with my management style, please raise your hand." The base of Sterling Tower instantly turned into a forest of raised arms. "Phoenix, get out. All of them. Life has been too easy for you people." Those who refused to leave, but kept complaining, were executed on the spot. I used my psychic reach to follow the expelled disciples, hearing them call me a monster who doesn't understand love, cursing me to be single forever. These faces were new. They must be recent recruits. Whose idea was this recruitment drive? What kind of trash were we hiring? Without the Institute's protection, the naive, fresh ex-disciples were stripped clean by bandits the moment they hit the foothills. Their cultivation was too low. None survived. Thus, Sterling Tower was completely emptied. Several elders, hearing I was out of stasis, rushed back immediately. They had been negotiating with the Obsidian Order, but with my return, that was no longer necessary. Since when? I narrowed my eyes, my mood worsening. Do they have the qualifications to negotiate with us? Elder Arthur bowed. Now that the director has returned and the liability that was Juliet is removed, the Institute is safe. He spoke slower and slower. "By the way, Director, regarding Sterling Tower, a disciple wishes to move in." "Who?" I asked absently, toying with the ether-conductive bone. "It is Vice Director Sebastian's personal protege. Her name is Bella Bright." Sebastian Cole was the Vice Director, my senior from the same master, second only to Juliet in power. But he usually kept to himself and had zero presence. When did he get a protege? And when the Obsidian Order attacked, with him present, how did we lose so badly? Arthur made a face that was hard to describe. He went crazy too. Just as the thought crossed my mind, I got the confirmation. Yes, Sebastian was accompanying Bella, picking mushrooms. In a pocket dimension, picking mushrooms that had absolutely no utility. Meanwhile, our disciples were holding the line, being mocked and slaughtered by the enemy. My face darkened. I was about to ask for details when I saw Arthur also seemed to have a grievance. "What did those two offend you too?" "You could say that." Arthur tried to be diplomatic. Bella liked to wander around the headquarters, causing trouble with her lack of social awareness. But because she was Sebastian's favorite, no one dared to complain. Arthur had made one comment about her being disruptive, and Sebastian threatened a duel to the death. A duel was impossible. It would damage the Institute's image, and frankly, Arthur couldn't beat him. Arthur had to step back and apologize to Bella. Is she trying to shorten her lifespan? Is there not a single normal person in this new batch? I was getting annoyed. There is one with excellent potential, a rare genius, but he is currently out on a field mission. I decided to meet this Bella. Arthur went to fetch her with a look like he'd swallowed a fly. Before long, I heard a chipper, high-pitched voice. "What's the director like?" I heard Juliet was the prettiest in the Institute. "Is the director really ugly?" "Uncle Arthur, why aren't you talking?" "Hello, are you scared of the director? Is she a beast or something?" Bella soon saw me sitting on the main throne. She stood there, staring like a confused goose, until Arthur reminded her. "You see the director, and you don't bow." Bella didn't bow. Instead, she let out a mischievous giggle. "Oh, the director's sister is so pretty. Those rumor-mongers should die. Did people say those things because director's sister is too mean?" Just hearing her saccharine voice gave me a headache. "In terms of hierarchy, I am your superior. Is this how Sebastian taught you manners?" "Superior sounds so old. Calling you sister makes you sound younger. Master told me you were the youngest in his generation and only got the director job because the founder played favorites." Bella bit her finger, her eyes darting all over me, implying I didn't know the rules as well as her master. What an idiot. I didn't want to argue with her. I waved my hand. "The gold annex of Sterling Tower is empty. Move in there." Bella wasn't satisfied. Her eyes went wide, as if I'd stolen her pacifier. "The gold annex? That's the smallest courtyard. I don't want it. I want the main hall." Arthur jumped, terrified by her words. She was new and didn't know my temper. I hated being contradicted. I smiled darkly. You want the main hall? Fine. If you can identify the totem engraved on my blade, I'll agree. Bella walked over defenseless. This is the celestial slaughter pattern, nurtured by blood. My master taught me this. She lifted her head triumphantly. A second later, her head was on the floor. Arthur was mentally prepared, but still stunned. Director, Sebastian is going to riot. I knew he would. He was always the unique one, constantly contrary to our master. Who knew falling in love would turn him into a moron? Less than 6 hours later, Sebastian couldn't find a student and came rushing to me frantically. Then he saw Bella's corpse. Victoria, how could you do this to her? His eyes were red with urgency. I looked at his desperate state, confused. Why had he become like this? He used to be normal. I hate people who don't follow rules. Isn't execution standard protocol? Arthur, standing next to me, looked awkward. Usually, if a disciple made a small mistake, death was harsh. But Bella seemed genuinely oblivious to survival instincts. Sebastian really hadn't taught her anything. She had a pure heart. It was my fault for not teaching her, but you hypocrites always use rules and morals to bind people. I will slaughter the world to bury with her. Sebastian let out a roar to the heavens, drew his sword, and prepared to leave. I flew forward and blocked him, radiating killing intent. He stepped back, seemingly surprised I dared to attack him. Victoria, what are you doing? Cleaning house. I had been too sentimental before, letting his ego inflate. The master had actually favored him, forcing me to keep him as vice director even though he wasn't fit to lead. But I had a reason to kill him now. He literally just said he wanted to slaughter the world. Killing him would save the masses he couldn't beat anyway. A good deed. It should boost my karma. His cultivation hadn't improved in decades. Still, fighting him wore down my blade. Time to retrieve my collector's item. It was a special sword, carrying the force of a thunderstorm just by being unsheathed. It required the coldest ice in the world for storage. The armory happened to have a glacial pocket dimension, something I snatched during a previous expedition. When I entered the glacial dimension, I found it empty. Where's my sword? Sound didn't travel out of the dimension, so I immediately exited to find the keeper. Old Man Finch, the armory keeper, was hunched and unshaven, wearing a patched-up work uniform. He was sitting cross-legged on the floor with messy hair, while a small disciple grilled skewers next to him. Finch saw me and lazily lifted an eyelid. Oh, director's here? Where's my sword? I asked furiously. Isn't it in your hand? Was this guy brain damaged? I mean the Vanguard blade in the glacial dimension. Finch shifted his lounging position. Oh, that sword? I gave it to Penny. Penny, the little disciple busy, sprinkling spices, looked up and smiled cautiously. Director, do you eat spicy food? You know, Penny's skills are. Those 5 words are the last things Finch said in this world. Penny was petrified. The Vanguard blade had already bonded with its master. It was my property. How could he just give it away? Since you can't guard the armory, vacate the position immediately. My face was grim. Losing Juliet and Sebastian had already ruined my mood. If he just handed out inventory to random people, the Institute would collapse. After kicking his corpse across the room, I performed a one-handed seal to summon the Vanguard. Penny felt her storage bag vibrating violently, and soon the sword flew out. Holding the Vanguard, my irritability subsided slightly. Penny, stunned for a long time, remembered to flip the skewers in her hand, weakly holding up a freshly grilled one. Director, would you like a taste? I took a few. I recognized the meat immediately. Spirit beast from the North Ridge. The seasoning was good, but the texture was a bit tough. This is meat from beasts that have been dead for a while, isn't it? Yes. I saw all those spirit beasts burned to death. It seemed like such a waste. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have scavenged them without asking. Penny clutched her spice jar nervously. Don't be nervous. Keep grilling. It's delicious. Seeing her terrified, my tone softened. That guy had merits from the old days. I'm not heartless. I explained to myself. Finch had a weird temper, a stubborn mule. Once he decided something, he wouldn't budge. Years ago, he risked his death to save hundreds of our disciples, suffering severe injuries. His personality meant he would suffer in the real world. I couldn't bear to see him homeless, knowing he couldn't win every fight he picked. He had made countless enemies. So, I let him stay at the Institute with an easy job. Unfortunately, everyone has flaws. His flaw was his inability to adapt. He stayed in the armory so long he thought he owned everything in it. I had planned this during my stasis. When I came out, I would cultivate quietly, stop raiding resources aggressively. But these people kept challenging my bottom line. I didn't want to get violent. They forced me. He lied to me? He said everything here was his, and disciples had to apply to him for weapons. Penny mumbled in shock. She thought she had found a powerful patron. Having just transmigrated here, unfamiliar with the world, she was already at a disadvantage. Now she realized she'd been played. She had waited on that slob hand and foot, thinking his rudeness to others was special treatment for her. Realizing the woman in front of her was the real power, she dropped to her knees. I'm sorry, Director. I shouldn't have taken your stuff. Eating the skewer, I felt better. It's fine. You didn't know. I don't blame you. Before leaving, I reminded her that the beasts on the North Ridge could be hunted. Live ones have more value. Eating them boosts energy. Grill live ones next time. Okay, Jirito. I'll remember. She agreed timidly. Hunting beasts was good exercise. This disciple was only mildly weird. An angel compared to the new recruits. Institute regulations stated that after heavy killing, one must burn incense in the Hall of Reflection to prevent chi deviation. In the hall, I lit incense and counted the people I'd killed. The keeper's death saddened me most. I said I'd give him a worry-free life, and I failed. Maybe it was my fault. Guarding the armory was the best I could think of. Any other job requires social interaction, and he hated strangers. As I spoke, I sensed something wrong. Someone else was in the hall. A very faint breathing sound from the corner. Who is it? The person could hide their breath, but I was superior. I waved my hand, and my sword flew over, hooking the person's collar and hoisting him into the air. It was a male disciple, judging by the uniform, another new recruit. Being caught didn't panic him. He grinned lecherously. Director, are you here alone because you're lonely? My face went black. The Hall of Reflection isn't for people like you. Only Tier 4 cultivators and above could enter. How did he get in? Before I could interrogate him, he spilled everything with a sleazy look. If I don't come here, how do I trigger the plot event? The system said there are 2 romantic encounters here today. If I miss them, I'd be losing out big time. Plot event? System? I didn't understand a word. I was confused. The system said so, so it told you to enter the Hall of Reflection. Sort of. Director, I heard you haven't had a partner in 200 years. Want a disciple to moisten your life. I killed him casually. This time, I minced him in a fine paste and still didn't find anything called a system on him. However, he had a lot of miraculous pills, some so rare, even I hadn't seen them often. Where'd he get them? A new disciple having such resources? Looking at the scattered remains, I muttered, system. What exactly is a system? Right, his energy core? I used my psychic sense to shatter his core and found a thin wisp of soul inside. It had a shrill, tinny voice. How did you find me? Please spare me. I didn't understand it, so I crushed it. After crushing it, I discovered it carried a massive amount of energy. Absorbing it miraculously boosted my cultivation by a significant margin. This system thing was actually quite nice. I hope more show up. It might help me reach the apex of the ascendant stage. Leaving the hall, I saw a female disciple lost nearby. Was she the second romantic encounter that guy mentioned? She did look pure and cute. I cast a spell to guide her out and left. The next day, an elder rushed over to apologize for the incident in the hall. I apologized, Director. It was my failure in teaching. He offended you. This elder seemed normal. And I already killed him. A trace of regret appeared on the elder's face, but was quickly replaced by respect. He spoke out of turn. He deserved it. Though he said that his heart was bleeding, the quality of this batch of recruits was average. He had fought several other elders to snatch this one with potential. Watching him break through to Tier 2 in months, he barely got a brag before the kid died. He was melancholic. I was melancholic. Are there no normal people in this intake? I sighed. The only relatively normal one had no talent for magic, but was getting better at grilling. Hearing this, Arthur stepped forward proudly. Of course, Director. The one with the best bone structure is my student. He went out for field experience. He should be back in a day or two. I'll meet him when he returns. Recruitment used to be Juliet's job. Witnesses said everything was normal until she met Jax. Then she became obsessed. The testing stone had identified several candidates with extreme single-element affinity. Everyone thought it was good news. Soon, I got my wish and met this #1 genius. But this disciple seemed to have an attitude. I heard Arthur briefing him at the door. The director hates bad manners. The vice director died for that. Don't nag. Besides, rules are made for the weak. He interrupted Arthur impatiently. Stepping into the great hall, his gaze swept the entire room, nodding slightly as if satisfied with the decor. While he sized up the hall, I sized him up. Just one look told me. This guy indeed had talent. You are Damien Cross? Greetings, Director. Damien lowered his head obediently. Arthur sighed in relief. Good. Since you just returned from the field, tell me where you went and what you saw. I asked. Just cleaned up some bandits, pretending to be warlords, and some rogue cultivators. The moment I attacked, they crowded around asking me questions. Annoying. Like they'd never seen the world. Don't they have their own lives? I smiled slightly, saying nothing. Although I wasn't satisfied with him, I had killed almost all the new disciples. Fine. Everything going smoothly for a rookie breed's arrogance. That's normal. In. You may go. Arthur exhaled. At least he didn't say anything treasonous like the others. The Obsidian Order, previously rampant, vanished after hearing of my return. But I wasn't planning to let them go. Although Sebastian was dead, we had many powerful elders. They all wanted that vacant position, so they were eager to earn merit. Leading my new weapon and a group of elders, we aggressively stormed the Obsidian Order, fighting for 7 days until the sky turned dark. In reality, we pressed them hard while they retreated, until their leader begged for mercy. We were out of our minds to attack your institute. We surrender. Please spare our lives. And their admission was quick. I was satisfied, but that didn't mean I would let them go. I feel it's not enough. Go reflect on it in hell. The war was easy. We returned fully loaded. The Obsidian Order's territory was now ours. Listening to the disciples cheer, I finally felt my suppressed mood lift. Of course, this leisure couldn't last. Penny came to me sobbing. She said her high-grade grilling furnace was stolen by Damien. I looked closer. The kid looked like beaten dough, her face covered in bruises. He beat you like this. MHM, and he stole my spices. Penny cried aggrievedly. Stealing spices? That's tacky. I decided to take her to find Damien personally. Harming fellow disciples was a major taboo. If he was this untamable, he couldn't stay. On the way, Penny asked nervously, Director, will you kill him? Depends. I just want my furnace back. She thought of something sad and cried again. It was ugly. Arthur already knew. He found me before I found Damien. It's just a squabble between disciples. He might not have controlled his strength. Please forgive him, Director. To save his genius, he was desperate. I pulled Penny, whose face was swollen like a watermelon, in front of him. You call this a squabble? Penny would be a dead pair if she weren't tough. Arthur would do anything to save Damien. I'll replace her furnace with a master-grade one, and I will personally cover the Institute's expenses for 2 years. Is that okay? 2 years is too little. Make it 5. Covering the expenses of thousands of people was harsh. It showed how much Arthur liked Damien. He gritted his teeth. Fine, and I'll pay for her medical herbs. I looked at Penny. She was satisfied with the decision and nodded. We'll let it slide for now. Disciples with extreme single-element affinity receive a special heritage transfer after reaching Tier 2. Juliet used to handle this. That was my job. The only one who hadn't received it was Damien. I sent people to call him 3 times. In the meantime, I led a dungeon exploration and appointed a new vice director. Clearly, a long time had passed. He never came. After the ceremony for the new vice director, I remembered. Why hasn't Damien come? Does he not want the Institute's heritage? Arthur broke into a cold sweat. He's been in deep meditation for a breakthrough. He probably missed the news. I'll hurry him. No need. Since he's breaking through, let him rest. I interrupted. I wanted to see what kind of breakthrough took over a month. With his talent, Tier 3 shouldn't take more than 2 or 3 days. Damien lived in Arthur's Annex, a remote, desolate location. He requested it for the quiet. Before I even got close, I smelled a disgusting stench, like a hex made from rotting corpses. A crimson mist hovered low over the courtyard. I stood in the distance. I saw his clothes corroded with tiny holes, his fingernails pitch black, sharp, with strips of dark red flesh caught in them. It was flesh he had clawed from his own chest. The wound writhed, as if something under the skin was trying to burrow out. His eyes had no whites, and his throat made broken hissing sounds, like he was being strangled. He was practicing forbidden arts. The Ethris Institute was a righteous faction. We absolutely did not allow dark arts. These techniques spread like a plague, eroding the mind. He looked like he was suffering from energy deviation. He was frantically clawing at his chest, digging out clumps of dark red matter. Looking closely, there were fat, white maggots mixed in. At this rate, he was going to hollow out his own organs. I was debating whether to stop him when he suddenly froze, falling to the ground motionless. Did he just kill himself that fast? I reached out, sending a thread of ether through the air into Damien's body, protecting his heart and energy center. He had caused me so much trouble and unhappiness. He couldn't die yet. If anyone was going to kill him, it had to be me. Feeling the cool energy slide into his brain, Damien woke up. He looked at his hands in surprise, panting heavily. I woke up so fast this time. He paused for a long time, then spoke to the air. I know, but isn't this a good sign? At most another 6 months, and I can kill Victoria and take her position as director. I was stunned by the confident smile on his face. From Tier 2 to Ascendant in 6 months? Did the worms eat his brain? After killing her and annexing the 9 great sects, Lillian, Moon, and Vivi will have a legitimate reason to stay by my side. I had a headache listening to this. I didn't even need to show myself. I suppressed him from a distance, dragging him to me. Weakened from the dark arts, he had no strength to struggle. I took him to Arthur. Seeing his prize student in such a state, Arthur was dumbfounded. Damien clearly hadn't expected me to be eavesdropping. He hadn't changed out of his blood-stained, moth-eaten clothes. The fabric on his chest hung like tatters. Practicing dark arts was unforgivable. His words were treason. I looked at him with a faint smile. Repeat what you just said in front of you, Master. Why should I? As soon as he spoke, my sword point was hovering over his heart. The wound there wasn't bandaged. A gentle poke would shatter the organ. I'll say it. I had a good memory, forcing him to repeat every word. Arthur's lifetime reputation was ruined in that moment. His hand, pointing at Damien, trembled. You traitorous disciple. How many people have you harmed? Whether threatened by me or delirious from pain, Damien actually spilled all his crimes. Learning that he had murdered so many fellow disciples to fuel his dark arts, Arthur was stunned. I didn't need to lift a finger. Arthur ended Damien himself. Furthermore, since Damien practiced dark arts, his body had to be incinerated and his quarters thoroughly searched. Just doing that wasn't enough. Arthur was old. He couldn't make the right choices anymore. I didn't want anyone who couldn't distinguish good from bad. Arthur, perhaps you are better suited for a quieter life. A smart man, he understood immediately. I'm indeed no longer fit for this position. I begged the director to allow me to retire. At least he wasn't senile. Jim, from today on, you are the chief elder. Jim, the intern who had been following me, froze. Fired on the spot, promoted on the spot. Thank you, director. I will make the institutes rise my duty and go through fire and water for your commands. I nodded with satisfaction. With that, the freaks in the sect were mostly cleaned out. The former chief elder planned to incinerate Damien. I took over the job. I wanted to see if he had any treasures. He definitely wasn't talking to thin air earlier. Using true fire, I burned the body down and, sure enough, produced a spirit bead. It contained the essence of ice and snow, a glacial orb. As for the dark art, I permanently sealed the manual. I couldn't find where he learned it, so after a few failed investigations, I gave up. I realized these strange lunatics all had various lucky breaks. Damien had hoarded a lot of treasures during this time, stripping artifacts from other crazies. The armory couldn't fit it all, so we had to expand. We doubled its size just to store everything. Conveniently, the armory needed a new keeper. The former chief elder volunteered, and I agreed. He had strong boundaries, and with the previous keeper's mistake as a lesson, I trusted he wouldn't repeat it. As for the miraculous pills, the warehouse was overflowing. We handed them out as welfare to the disciples. None compared to the glacial orb. That was all I needed. Looking at the warehouse full of new techniques and resources, I suddenly felt a pang of regret. I might have killed them too early. If I'd waited, maybe they would have fished up more good stuff in the outside world. Comparatively, Penny's luck was more mundane, mostly food-related. I wasn't interested, so I let her off. Penny's skills were becoming legendary. Starting with skewers, she expanded to all kinds of food. From just tasting good, they began to boost cultivation and heal internal injuries. Her functions were increasing. When she brought me dessert, she looked at me curiously. Director, you seem to be patrolling down the mountain a lot lately. Nothing important. Just trying my luck. Trying your luck. Penny was confused. Exactly. I wanted to see if there were any more of these maniacs. If there were, I'd bring them back and raise them for a bit. Fatten them up, then kill them. Thinking of it that way, no matter how mentally deficient they were, I could accept them. Penny didn't quite understand, but she wanted to patrol with me. Sure, no problem. This time I brought her along. She brought a new spherical dessert she invented called Fortune Puffs. She said the ingredients were blessed with karma, so they granted wishes. I didn't believe it, until I saw a man in tattered clothes at the foot of the mountain. He had a familiar aura of stupidity about him. He had just been bullied for low cultivation, but in the blink of an eye, his power surged, and he took revenge. Yes, that's the type. I smile, my mood excellent. Penny, looks like your Fortune Puffs really work. Penny looked around but couldn't find a target. She didn't know what I was talking about. Only I knew that the Institute's warehouse would have a chance to expand again. And I was just a step away from the peak of the ascendant stage. Story complete.